What is going on, YouTube? Northeast Ohio Sports Cards. Here to talk about sports cards today. I know we don't do that all the time, but today we're talking about sports cards again. And I want to talk about a topic that I get questions about quite a bit, either whether it be in comments or direct messages or emails or on live streams, Q&As that I've been sneaking on and doing over here and there. And that is how you would get started with a limited budget. I'm not going to set a set number on it, but let's say you got a couple $100, $100, $200, $300, whatever. Maybe you got 1,000 all the way up that high, whatever you got, but you have a small little pool of money to play with. And you want to get started in this sports card nonsense. How do I go from $100 to $200 to $1,000 to $2,000 to $4,000 or $5,000, so on and so forth, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we're going to talk about today. This answer has changed for me over just in the last 6 months to a year. I made a video similar to this in the spring or summer, late summer, early fall. I don't remember when it was exactly, but I talked about what my method would be then. And now it has shifted. It hasn't necessarily completely changed, but there are some new weapons in the arsenal that we can utilize that I think could help you build your bankroll a lot faster and also help you cut your teeth. Just kind of learning the ins and outs a little bit better. So a couple base level things. If you are truly in this to make money, if that's the aspect that you're looking at it for, I would advise do not get personal attachments to your cards. You need to be willing to sell whatever it is, whenever it is, if the time feels right. Another thing, I personally rarely rip wax. You could buy wax, hold it sealed, and resell it. But ripping wax, especially if you're paying inflated secondary market prices, is typically not a good way to actually make money doing this, which that's the angle I'm taking on this. We are in this as quote unquote investors or to build your bankroll and make profit. Ripping wax is not the safe and easy way to do that. That's the gambling way to do that. That is not the angle and the approach that I personally take. Same with breaks. I have never bought into a break in my entire life. I'll never say never that I never will, but I don't see it. Buy the card you want rather than the break prices, or buy smaller cards to flip and then work your way into the ones that you really want versus, paying hundreds of dollars on breaks, hoping you luck into something big or something that you really want. The odds are not in your favor. You're really just kind of throwing money away. I understand it could be fun and entertaining and enjoyable. I get all that, but that's a different thing. So if that's what you want to do, that's perfectly fine, but just understand what you're doing. If you're taking that approach to it, you're just in it to have fun on a Saturday night, hop in a couple breaks, see what happens. Like firing a DFS lineup in on a random couple nights a week or betting on the Super Bowl or whatever. Once again, perfectly fine thing to do. But if you're actually in this to build a bankroll and start small and work your way up, not a smart thing to do. So initially, the classic way to do this, beyond just like your general flipping, just dig in the dollar bins at card shows, buy players low, buy the cyclical cycles. Like I did the video a week ago about like, hey, you should probably be buying NFL now to sit on and sell in the fall and make your money and move on to the next thing. Like there's still all those classic strategies. 6 months ago to a year ago, if anyone asked this question, a lot of people's long form answer would be buy raw, grade it, sell it, which is still very viable. But It is a lot harder now to do that. It's a lot slower because of how backed up the grading companies are. And if you're doing this strictly for the money side of it, you're sending to PSA. You're just leaving money on the table, not sending to them. Now, you could grind out smaller profits at some of the smaller companies, like SGC or whatever. BGS is kind of off in their own little world right now, but they're not that fast, and you are capping your ceiling. Now, SGC is picking up pace lately. There's the new HGA, but that's been kind of a weird thing with their weekly caps. So it's really even hard to even submit cards to them. CSG is getting ready to fire up, but that's a big unknown. We don't know how the market is going to treat their slabs. So that gets tricky as well. Do you really want to send cards off to an unknown market when they come back? Whereas PSA, there's a billion data points you could go to back that up. So you could very well make a nice little living sending cards off to CSG or HGA or SGC, but your approach is going to be slightly different than those going with PSA, which is just not necessarily wrong. You make your money however you want to make it. But the general concept of acquiring raw cards, sending them off to be graded, and then getting that exponential growth is still there, but it's just trickier now because it's a lot longer to get them back and it's more expensive. So your risk is a lot higher. What happens to that player over the 6 months that the card is out at grading, if not longer? I would also recommend going through some type of group submitter, especially if you're newer to the grading game. Send your stuff to them, drop it off to them, whatever. You'll get a discounted price, have them submit it, so on and so forth. Just find someone trusted. There are plenty of large groups out there. PSA even has authorized group submitter dealers now. A lot of local card shops do them. You could find group submitters if you want to, but just do your research on them and make sure that you're getting in with a trusted group submitter. So that was kind of the old school way to kind of grind things out. Then something happened this past year that I think really opens things up to grinding a lot faster and learning the intricacies of the market a lot faster. And that's StarStock. Obviously, I've talked about StarStock a lot on the channel over the months. I haven't talked about them a lot the last few weeks, but I'm still on there almost every day checking stuff. And educate yourself on StarStock. And I really think that's the modern way to grind out a profit, if you will. If you're willing to put the time in and do the research, and there's always going to be risk, but StarStock, I think, is the most efficient, quickest way to build a bankroll. And I don't really think it's close, to be quite honest. So StarStock allows you to instantly buy and sell cards. They transfer ownership behind the scenes. All you know is that you're buying, like I have up on the screen here, Fernando Tatis, a PSA 10, a PSA 9, or whatever other graded card. They have them all on there. Or you could buy raw cards, which StarStock assigns a loose grade to. Think of it like a Beckett card review when they used to do those. So there's StarStock A, StarStock B, and StarStock C. You can actually submit the grade through StarStock. That gets a little weird because you're not actually seeing the card that you're sending off. A lot of people have a really hard time kind of getting through the mindset of not seeing the card, but the advantages are you don't have to ship anything. So if you're new, you don't have to deal with shipping cards correctly. No returns, so you have no risk of dealing with returns. Fees are a lot lower, 5% instead of eBay's 13%. You can't run auctions. It's basically only best offer, buy it now, essentially, to boil it down. And you can send them physical cards if you want to. Now, I've never actually sent them a physical card. I put 25, 50 bucks on here months ago and then just kind of let it ride, slowly flipping, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a lot of ways you could go about flipping on here. You can, do the classic, I think X player is too cheap, I'm going to buy him. He performs well, like you thought, and then sell him a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months down the road and bring in the profit. You could try submitting through grading through them and maybe get back PSA 10s and up it from there. Now, the StarStock market is weird when it comes to their A, B, and C. A gets a premium. So right now, Tatis Topps Chrome Raw basically goes for about 110 bucks. It spiked up to 150 and it looks like it kind of pulled back down because he signed a big contract the other day. So you can see the purple line here on the chart on the right. It peaked up to 150 and then it looks like it's come down to about 110. So let's call it low hundreds. So a raw Tatis Chrome, if you went on eBay right now or went to a card show or shop, would probably cost you a little over 100 bucks. Okay. StarStock A's are going for $189. And that's a raw card. Now you're saying, what in the hell? Why is a StarStock A going for more than raw? Because essentially it's been pre-reviewed. Now, whatever faith you want to put into the StarStock quote unquote graders is a whole different bag of cats. And I'm not really going to focus on the StarStock A's today, but you can absolutely make great money purchasing StarStock A's and then just like anything else, the player plays well, then flip it for a higher price. Or maybe you want to get real risky and buy StarStock A's, submit them to grading and hope that they come back PSA 10s. Now they've only had one PSA submission so far. And on average, they came back at, I think, about 40% PSA 10s, with a bulk of them being PSA 9s and then a couple rogue lesser grades. So there's definitely risk involved there. And it's weird because you're not actually seeing the card. Now, I submitted stuff on their second PSA submission. I haven't gotten it back yet. It should be pretty soon. So we'll see how I end up doing on that. I sent in some DeAndre Hunter and Keldon Johnson silvers that I purchased on StarStock. So we'll see what happens. So you have the StarStock A. The interesting ones and the graded prices. So StarStock A's don't really relate to a real world price. They're higher, substantially so in some cases. Sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't. You could kind of actually work out the math and come to your own conclusions on if an individual card for an individual player is a good deal in the A based off a 40% chance to maybe it swing a PSA 10 plus the $30 grading fee. So there's like a whole math equation you could do there. That's not my shtick. So feel free to do that part of the homework on your own. The interesting ones are either graded cards. One thing I can tell you is that sometimes this market tends to move a little slower. In some cases, it moves at a rapid pace, especially in basketball. But sometimes people just forget to update their prices when something moves very quickly, especially on the graded side. Perfect example of this. So I bought a Fernando Tatis PSA 10 Topps Chrome about a week ago before he signed his big deal. In fact, if I come down here and look at the history, right there, $369 on Valentine's Day. This was a little high, and I was okay paying a little over current comps, and it wasn't much over current comps because here's the thing. If I buy it on eBay for $350-ish, I have to pay in Ohio like a 6% sales tax, plus most people charge shipping, so $5 for shipping and 5 to 6% in sales tax. Depending on where you live, your mileage may vary on that. Now all of a sudden, the $350 card becomes a $375 card or whatever it is. And I have to wait for them to ship it to me. StarStock, I paid none of that. No shipping, no fees, no taxes as the buyer. So if it's $369, it's just $369. That's it. And I instantly have it in my vault or collection. So fast forward a few days, Tatis signs his monster contract. And as we can see here, the card was trading for about $350, $360, right around when I bought it for $369. And then poof, it went way up. This is almost a $500 card now. They're fluctuating around 475-ish, seems to be 475 to 500. I've seen sales around there the last few days. So one, if I wanted to cash out immediately, because I purchased this on StarStock for $339 or $369, I already had it. I could have immediately flipped it. Now, in that case, there's like a 4-day lag there. If it was an eBay purchase, I could still be waiting for it to come to me, maybe. And there's instances we've given plenty of examples on the channel over time where you will flip something within 30 minutes of each other, especially in the NBA world where it moves super fast. I'm just using Tatis as an example because he's been in the news this week, and it is also a good example. So Tatis Chromes are sitting at around 500, 475. So I came to look the night that they spiked where he signed his contract, and there was one for sale for $400. And the eBay world prices were 475-ish at the time. So I bought another one for 400. I had the money in the account and I just pulled the trigger on it. And then you could see after me, a couple more sold. One sold for 420, one sold for 430. Some PSA 9s went and a couple StarStock A's went. So now the lowest one listed is 475, which is the current eBay rate. But if you wanted one, it's almost cheaper to buy it on here because you're not paying the taxes and stuff like we talked about before. If I go to eBay for 475, buy it now, I'm going to waste an extra $25 or so in shipping. And if I want these cards sent home, you can click a little button. They charge you a couple bucks and send them home to you. It takes about 2 or 3 weeks. And that leads me into my next thing when it comes to flipping. The underrated aspect and the biggest one, and a lot of people have caught on to this, but a lot of people haven't yet. And you can make a lot of money on this. There is definitely some risk because there's still a shipping lag time to get the cards home. So it's not foolproof, but I think in general, you could turn a really nice profit doing this. And that is StarStock Bs. So StarStock Bs are essentially treated as your average raw card. So it's something that they would expect not to get a PSA 10 or PSA 9, I believe. But if you're buying cards raw off eBay, newsflash, most of them probably aren't going to be 9s or 10s. They're probably 8s, maybe a 9. I've bought plenty of cards off eBay raw, trying to get some to grade, and maybe half to a third even have a shot. And it's not necessarily that the seller's trying to, pull a fast one on you. It's just getting a PSA 10 isn't easy. A few little things wrong with the card that you might not be able to see in an eBay listing. And maybe the seller didn't even miss. It knocks it down from a 10 to a 9 and real fast. A little surface dimple, a little scratch, a little soft corner, a little white showing through, whatever. And all of a sudden, you have a PSA 9. So StarStock Bs are treated like the redheaded stepchildren of the site. StarStock Cs, I wouldn't mess with. Those are cards that have like actual real defects to them, like maybe deep surface scratches or a really bad corner. And you don't see many StarStock Cs, but Bs are your average raw card. So let's use Tatis as our example again. You could see his average or his StarStock B are going for about $65. If I wanted to buy some of these, there's one for 60. Basically, there's 3 for $65. Then it jumps to 75. So in the real world, if you will, his StarStock B or his raw rather is selling for a little over $100. Okay. So if you wanted to, you could buy these 3 for about $200, give or take, ship them home, get them in 2 weeks, and then just sell them raw on eBay for close to $100. And in a case like Tatis, right now, we're getting ready to move into the real upswing period of baseball. So you buy these today, ship them home, get them back in, get them and say, like, let's conservatively say mid-March. We'll call it a full month that it takes you to get them. That puts you towards, towards the latter parts of spring training. As long as he doesn't get hurt or anything, in theory, his prices should only slowly creep up from here, assuming he doesn't even get another price spike. But in general, they should slowly creep up from here. So now you're into the cards for 200. That's 3 of them. In the real world, they're selling for 100 to 110 a piece. Say you get 110, that's $330. Even with eBay fees, you're still netting out close to $100. Or maybe you go to a local card show and you could take those 3 that you spent 200 on and trade into a $300 card. or $350 card if the prices swing up in the time that it takes you to shipping. That's a lot faster than waiting for PSA to grade a card. And like I said, there's still risk involved, but you're narrowing your window. You're talking about a month or so to get your cards from StarStock versus 6 to 8 months to get them back from PSA. And I'll give you a second example. And I may actually scoop some of these up. I haven't decided yet, but it's pretty much a no-brainer. Donovan Mitchell, one of the hottest players in the NBA right now. His StarStock Bs are $50. His raw Prism base in the real world are going for $100 and on the upswing. So same thing. And there's a bunch of these on there. There are 6 of these on there for $49.99 and one for $55. So you could buy all 6 of those for $300, send them home, and assuming that Mitchell's market holds, that's $600 worth of cards off of StarStock because of the way the StarStock market treats A's and B's. But like I said, it's weird. It's if you're not used to StarStock, it could take you a minute to kind of wrap your head around their pricing because it doesn't necessarily reflect what's going on eBay or in, like I said, the real world. So this is an interesting way that you could kind of grind out a profit on this stuff. You know, if you said, hey, I got $500 to get started, you could pick up 3 of these for $150 and try to double your money. And the Jazz look really good. So unless he gets hurt, I don't expect his cards to go down before the playoffs. So you could sit on them for a few weeks if you wanted to, but the trick is pulling them off StarStock, because on StarStock, for whatever reason, the Bs get no love. And you could find deals like this all day long. You just have to be willing to put the time in and dig for them. The thing is that there's no easy way to do this. You just got to literally put the legwork in and check players that you're interested in, and then check the current comps and see what's going on. And the same thing with finding deals on PSA 10s and 9s. Like I said, the market moves fast on something. Sometimes you could get in on the graded stuff a little bit cheaper. The A's fly on here, but graded and whatnot, you could get in. Sometimes the prices move a little bit slower than some of the other stuff. And then, like I said, you could just do your general old school flip stuff, buy low, sell high, et cetera, et cetera. You got to kind of learn the StarStock market a little bit because it's a little bit different than the regular card market, but the fundamental principles are the same. And it just kind of helps you build that knowledge base of an individual sport or whatever it is that you're in, and how the market kind of flows and price swings based off news and all that sort of stuff. So if you're new to the game, it really helps you out with that. So that would be my best advice if you're just getting started out. Here's one more example. Jason Tatum StarStock B, $125. Jason Tatum in the real world, $175 for his raw. And once again, that could easily go up as we begin to approach the NBA playoffs. So that's just 3 examples I found. That took me about 10 minutes to find those 3. So, like I said, if you come to me and say, hey, I got $500 and I want to get started out in this whole sports card nonsense, what would you do? I would honestly point you towards StarStock. Keep a little bit out if you want to go play at a card show or whatever, but just eliminating all the shipping and the eBay shenanigans and the PayPal nonsense and the crap that goes on in all the Facebook groups and stuff, and just kind of narrowing your focus into this market. Use this to build up your bankroll, and then they pay you out in PayPal or a check, or you could send your cards home. So like what I did was I started flipping A's. I would buy low based off news and stuff like that, and do like the more classic approach. Now this ecosystem built up with these Bs that you could do what I just described and kind of move the money from one place to another. You can always transfer it back. So there's a lot of different angles that you could take here, but it just eliminates a lot of the nonsense part of the sports card world, especially like with the returns and all that. You don't have to deal with any of that. And so what I've basically done is as I flipped and built up my bankroll, then I started to move off of StarStock A's, B's, and C's and more into buying graded cards. So as I built up more and more money in my account, then I would go out and start buying the PSA 10s and 9s of the world. And that's where you get into your larger flipping. Like when Colin Sexton had the huge game against the Nets, there was a PSA 10 of his on here for $200 when he had like that 40-point game or whatever it was in overtime. And eBay auctions were ending for his PSA 10 that night during the game, spiked all the way up to $400 because all the buy it now listings got bought out. And that's a semi low pop count card in the grand scheme of things. So all of a sudden, I see his PSA 10 Prism selling in the real world for $400. And on StarStock, there's only one listed at $200. I immediately went out and bought it, posted it for sale for like $375, and the next morning it sold. So I made $175 like that. And that's the sort of stuff you could do all day long on here if you're smart about it. So even if you're not sure, throw $100 on here, see what happens. This isn't necessarily the point of this video is not an advertisement for StarStock. Everyone's heard about it by now. The point of the video is if you're just starting out, I really do think this is the best way to build up. And then you can pull your money off here and then go chase whatever it is that you want, or like I said, send the card home. So, and StarStock is just rookie cards. So you're not going to find like a LeBron chalk toss on here or second year cards and a lot of that other stuff. But so just to review really quickly, the old school classics flip game, dig in those dollar boxes and stuff like that, grind it out that way. Buy raw to grade. That one's a lot tougher now. Just because of the timing involved and the increased costs, and PSA prices are probably going to go up again. And then last but not least is grinding out StarStock. For the budget person getting in, I think this is by far and away the best way to do it. And the other key is to learn the markets. So if you're brand new, you might not understand how everything flows. So throw $100 on there, see what happens. That's all I have for you guys today. YouTube stuff down below. Like, comment, sub, all that jazz. They still are running the promo, the you get 10, I get 10, we all get 10 thing. Where if you use someone's user ID, you get $10 and they get $10. My code for that is down below, but there's plenty of them out there. And then all the other Amazon affiliate links, market movers links, all that stuff's down there. So we will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.